Hello to everyone. David Parsons of the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, coming to you from Israel here on Election Day. Normally that's big news that there's an election on, but it's become so routine here in Israel. This is the 5th national elections in less than 4 years. That's an average of every 9 months that Israelis are going back to the voting booths to try and get out of this lingering political deadlock. And we'll talk about it a little here, try and encourage you how to pray into this election. But first, I'll give you a little description of where we are. This is the Abu Tor neighborhood of Jerusalem. We're about a half a mile south of the old city of Jerusalem. I walk my dog up here, and just 2 blocks away I can see the whole old city and the Temple Mount. And I've lived here about 20 years now. The neighborhood is, it's got some nice houses. It's a nice neighborhood with a mix of Ashkenazi, Sephardi Jews from Europe, from Middle East, Spanish Jews from all over the world. And I've come out here on election day many times and just done my own little straw poll, and it always is a real mix of the whole political spectrum here in Israel. But greetings from Abu Tor. We've been talking to some of the folks today about how they're voting, and I've been asking some of my Israeli friends, some of the people voting here. It's the 5th election in about 3.5 years, and I really don't want to know, how you voted. You don't have to tell me that, but I just want to know, have you been voting the same way all 5 elections, or did you change your mind this time? And it seems most of them, and the polls have shown this, the results of the elections, everyone's sort of set in their ways. They're all determined that their side's going to win, however they're voting, left, right, center. One guy just told us he got more set, more in concrete this time than ever before. And it's just another day where, just as the polls are showing, the polls here, the surveys of how people are going to vote, they had to stop last Thursday, Friday, the last 3 or 4 days before the election. You're not allowed to publish new polling results here in Israel. So there is a little mystery going into today. Where is it going to fall out? But once again, it looks like a very close race, that it's going to be hard for either the right of center camp led by Benjamin Netanyahu of Likud to get 61 votes versus, say, Yair Lapid and Benny Gantz in the center with maybe some partners on the left, maybe right. For them, it's going to be harder for them to get to 61 votes. But can Netanyahu do it? Finally, he failed last election about 1.5 years ago, and but he's got a chance to do it again. A lot of it depends on voter turnout. It's supposed to be rain today, forecast for Israel, but it's been very nice, very pleasant so far, at least here in Jerusalem. Some prognosticators were saying, well, look, if it rains, the voter turnout might be a little dampened by it, especially in the Arab sector. And I think that is a big critical question, that there's a lot of apathy among the Arabs and even in the general public after going to the polls time after time, and there's no break in this deadlock. Where is it going to turn out? Is it even worth going to vote? And some of the polling data in recent weeks showed there would be a low voter turnout among the Arab sector, which are considered on the left, which would help Netanyahu, that you have to, a party that's running for the Knesset has to get at least 3.25% of the overall national vote, which is around 4 Knesset seats in the 120-member Knesset. And if you don't make that threshold, you don't get in. And if there's a party, say, Meretz on the left, or one of the Arab parties that doesn't get enough votes for 4 seats, then those 4 seats are sort of redistributed among the other parties, That might give the right of center bloc led by Netanyahu enough to get 61 seats. But the dilemma there is that he would be relying on a far-right party that is a mix of religious Zionists and some like Itamar Ben-Gvir, who some say he's racist and wants to kick all the Arabs out of the country, which you just can't do that in this day and age. But you know, is Netanyahu going to be having to rely on someone with those sort of political views on the right, which he's helped them get in a position to make it in the Knesset, and in fact they're polling around 14 seats now. It's quite much. It's a pro-settlement party. There's a lot of good things about it, but there are some of the members of that alignment that I think you could rightly characterize them as racist against the Arabs. So this is the dilemma Israel is in, and we really need to pray into it. Netanyahu has been, really a Western democratic statesman for our generation. He's been terrific on economic issues, on security, geopolitical affairs, diplomatic affairs. He's been good for the nation. He's also been a master at Israeli politics and has thus become Israel's longest serving prime minister. But it's a contact sport here. It's not always a clean business to do politics. And right now I would say that, Israeli voters, they're a little frustrated about this impasse they've been in for almost 4 years now of whether Netanyahu should resign because he's under indictment and on trial on some fraud, breach of trust. He says it's some charges, but he says it's all a witch hunt by the leftist media and others, and the some leftist elements in the states to bring him down politically. It's like a political witch hunt, and therefore he has not resigned, which was the old tradition in Israeli politics. If a major leader became embroiled in some sort of criminal charges, they would resign and go have their day in court and try and win there and then come back, make a political comeback. But he's stood his ground, and for 4 years now the nation has been divided whether he should be leading or not. Both camps are almost dead even, 60-60, because some of the Arab parties have never served in a coalition government. The left has a less chance of getting into power this time. The right, the country leans to the right. The majority of the parties are strong Zionist parties that have made it into Knesset over recent years, but even some on the right have their own beef against Netanyahu and refuse to sit in a government. So we've got this deadlock. Is it going to be broken today? I think Netanyahu has a better chance. If it's low, especially low voter turnout in the Arab sector, it gives them a better chance in Netanyahu to come back to power after a year and a half out. But even then, he's going to be relying on some parties that many Jews find distasteful in their racist views. And I think as Christians, we'd have to really question it ourselves. And this is where we are. This is what we need to pray about. I would say, out of all this political turmoil, it is remarkable that over the last 4 years, the nation of Israel just seems to muddle along, and everything seems to, the economy is still doing well. The country is still safe and secure. The army is stable. The country is still stable. That whatever political wranglings and chaos there is, there still seems to be this hand of providence over this nation, keeping things stable. And we'll see where this Donnybrook over the personality of Netanyahu goes today. Does he, I think this is what we need to pray, does he still have a role in this country to play concerning, say, the Iranian nuclear threat, the peace process with the Palestinians? Is there still something in his destiny, in his career, that he needs to come back in power to do? Is it time for this new generation of leaders to come and rule the country? We'll see what the Israeli people decide, but we want this nation to, first of all, if we're praying, we have to thank God for keeping the nation safe and strong and stable despite it all. And the only rationale, the only reason we can look at it is we have to give credit to God, because despite everything that comes at this nation, whether from outside or inside, God is still building Zion. So that's our first prayer point. Thank God that he is still building up this nation and giving it strength to carry on despite all the obstacles. Number two, we pray for righteous leaders, upright, to work with wisdom, humility across the whole political spectrum. I think that's a large ask, because the options are not always so good, but we need to pray that somehow in their decision making as they come out of the election, try and form a new government, that the right compromises for the good of the whole nation would be first and foremost in the minds of all these leaders. And we need to pray that God would protect this nation from all the slander and the things that would come at it if there is this right of center government that's dependent on some of these actually kahanas. They have, like from Meir Kahane, some of his views, and I don't take this lightly to say that, but I'd say it's a big, big concern, and we need to pray that there would be a broader government, whether it's behind Netanyahu or some rotation of leaders, that somehow Israel would break free of this political impasse. We've been praying it for 3.5, going on 4 years now. I can't give you the answer of where God is taking all of this. I know that what I can say is that the nation is still standing strong and stable and prospering despite it all, and we have to thank God for that. So this is David Parsons on Election Day here in Jerusalem, and you want to join us on Thursday. We have a webinar, the ICEJ weekly webinar, Thursday at 4 p.m. from Jerusalem. We'll be joined by Gil Hoffman, who was the chief political correspondent for the Jerusalem Post for nearly 20 years. He's now the executive director of Honest Reporting, but he's going to be with us to talk about the results of the election on Thursday. We'll have 2 days to sort of let the dust clear, look at the results, what happened and why, and give you more insights into this whole political impasse here in Israel. God bless you. From Zion, this is David Parsons of the Christian Embassy.